Welcome to the agenda here on the Blood Red channel. Myself, Guy Clarke and David Lynch here to talk about one of Jurgen Klopp's first kings who today has left Liverpool. That is, of course, Sadio Mane completing his move to Bayern Munich. 6 years, Reds, and what a player he has been for Liverpool. Dave, just straight off the bat in terms of Sadio Mane, he was, of course, one of Jurgen Klopp's first signings, and I suppose in many ways has epitomised the success in one player, really, that Jurgen Klopp has brought to Liverpool from the position at which he joined to where he is today.
Yeah, I would argue that the player who really sort of best encapsulates the journey of Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool. You know, as you say, he's one of the first signings. I think he'd made a couple before then, but I don't think Steven Kolke became quite as iconic really at Liverpool. But Sadio Mane was the first real sort of major summer signing, wasn't he? And made an absolutely incredible start. And then from there, you know, as Liverpool sort of hit new levels, new heights, he was a major part of that. He was doing the same thing on an individual basis. And just really mirrored the journey of Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool from sort of top four hopefuls, you know, hoping they could sort of break that top four and get back into the Champions League after a long wait, to becoming sort of one of Europe's best teams, which and he leaves now as sort of a player with a lot of talent and ability and a lot of promise, but now leaves as one of Europe's best forwards. And I think, the fact that the two marry up sort of says a lot about both the player and the team in terms of the journey they've been on.
Yeah, most definitely decorated individually, but also collectively. Of course, won the Champions League, the Club World Cup, the Premier League, League Cup, and FA Cup this year as well, and the European Super Cup as well, of course. But 120 goals in just shy of 270 games for Liverpool. It's more, though, than just about the numbers with him, isn't it? As you were kind of saying before, it's that symbolism of what he has meant to Liverpool.
Yeah, and also the fact that some of those goals were not just, you know, he didn't just pile goals on in games where Liverpool won comfortably. He was at the heart of really iconic moments on that journey as well. So, you know, scoring some absolutely crucial goals in crucial moments that had a big hand in ensuring Liverpool did win those trophies. So his fingerprints are all over some of those successes. And I think that says a lot about him as a character in terms of, you know, standing up to be counted when it was necessary. Just showing his quality at the moments where it was most needed. And I think that, you know, when you ally that to obviously the fabulous talent that he's got and the work rate and everything else, then you get one of Liverpool's greatest ever players, really.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk then about some of those great moments. And you mentioned it before. There is only one place to begin. Right at the start, his debut away at Arsenal, and as we say so many times, typifying Jurgen Klopp's philosophy and everything. Starting, of course, off the right-hand side, really. And even in that first year at Liverpool, had AFCON not been in that season, who knows? The title charges may well have come even earlier in Jurgen Klopp's reign.
Yeah, I recall sort of when he was around the time he was about to sign as well at Liverpool, just before that, obviously, and thinking, they're going for another player from Southampton. This hasn't worked out previously. I don't know if this is a great idea. I know I've heard decent things about Mane, and I'd obviously watched him a few times and thought he looked a decent player, but was a bit wary about what to expect from him, really. And then I remember I attended the Arsenal game and sat in the press box, and obviously it's a beautiful day. It's a big game, a tough one, you're thinking as well, up against a team who you'd expected Liverpool to be fighting for the top four with. And then all of a sudden he does that, you know, running in off the right-hand side, showing just unbelievable close control, physicality to shrug players off, the two-footiness in terms of, you know, the power with which he hits it into the left, into the top corner on his left foot to just send that away end crazy was just symbolized what he was all about, really. And sort of, he never really looked back from that point onwards. And what a way to announce yourself. And I think it just, you know, it was just an upward trajectory from there. And I think that really summed him up, making that start. And again, doing it in a crucial game, because as you recall, obviously at the end of that season, Liverpool finished just a point ahead of Arsenal in the end to get into the top four. And so, you know, again, starting with not just a brilliant goal that said everything about him as a footballer, but a really, really important one in the end as well. And I think that top four race actually would have been a touch more comfortable, as you say, had Mane not got that injury towards the back end of the season as well. You know, he really had almost instantly sort of cemented himself as Liverpool's best player that season, and straight from the first game.
Yeah, and as you say, in so many decisive moments, and obviously we've got plenty to talk about with them, but a kind of a, I suppose, reluctant hero at times as well. You kind of see in his kind of goodbye speech that he's done with the club as well. He's not someone who craves the limelight, is he? It's I'm not saying Mohamed Salah does, but Mohamed Salah is all over billboards and everything. And Sadio Mane, he's done so much obviously for his home community back in Senegal as well. But for him, it is all about giving back like that, which Salah does too, but not a case of wanting to be the poster boy for everything.
Yeah, absolutely. A sort of shy character, really, when you meet him. Just really polite and just a nice guy. Doesn't I think if you met him and you weren't aware of what he does on a weekly basis on a football pitch, you wouldn't the first thing you wouldn't jump to was that he was a footballing superstar. He's just not that sort of character, really. No real ego about him. But I think it is worth mentioning that while all that is true, I think all footballers, even the ones who are like Sadio Mane, underneath all that, there has to be a certain level of self-belief that he has, that's bubbling under the surface there, because I just don't believe that you could do what he does, sort of believing that you're not great. He has to have that under the surface, but the fact that he never shows it is fantastic, really. And I think that says a lot about him as a character, is that he can, he keeps that side of himself hidden and keeps it on the pitch, really showing it when it matters. But then when you meet him on a day-to-day basis, just really, really nice character, and I think a great person to have in the dressing room as well, I'd imagine.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And in that first season, you mentioned how crucial he became. He as well, of course, endeared himself to the Liverpool fans even further, scoring at Goodison Park. And I mean, that moment really seemed to encapsulate that season, I suppose, and kind of that real reconnection under Jurgen Klopp in his first full season for the fan base with the players. And at so many different junctions, as you said right at the start, his fingerprints are all over the Liverpool success that there has been. But that a moment kind of that began to kickstart things even further.
Yeah, and I think that goal, obviously, Liverpool tend to face Everton around Christmas time, sort of every season, really, or in the build up, and that's that goal still gets sung about now. And I think even now Mane's left, that one will get an outing, because that's one of Liverpool's great Goodison Park victories. It's up there with Gary McAllister scoring in the last minute from that free kick all those years ago. It's one of the iconic Goodison Park performances, even though it wasn't a fantastic game or anything like that, but the way it ended was so dramatic, so fantastic. And Sadio Mane at the heart of it, as he so often was in big moments. You watch that goal back, and Sturridge obviously hits the post, but Mane's so alive to it, and the pace that he shows off the mark as well to get there. He's not resting on his heels like basically every other player on the pitch seems to be in that moment, and he gets there for a virtual tap-in. But that just says everything about him. Again, it's just another quality, another string to his bow, is that as well as all the other things he had, he was that striker's instinct in the box, never stopped moving, always towards the ball, and he gets his rewards in that situation. And then the images from the away end there are that's the reason he gets sung about now, is because it was just an incredible let-off and another incredible moment for Liverpool fans against the rivals.
Yeah, most definitely. Of course, after Mohamed Salah arrived and Coutinho left, the famous front three came to be as it has been up until today. Of course, he's moved to Bayern Munich. But do you think, on a personal level, maybe that Sadio Mane has had as much praise as maybe what he ought to have been due during his Liverpool career? For me, I kind of think to the title winning season, and in so many occasions, not least at Villa Park with that last minute winner, he seemed to be the man, certainly even prior to the lockdown, who, when a moment was needed, it seemed to be Mane who stepped to the fore.
Yeah, I think for me that was his best season, actually. I think he may have scored more Premier League goals in the season previous to that.
Yeah, he was joint Golden Boot winner, wasn't he?
That's right, yes. But for me, his best season was the title-winning season, without a doubt, because, as you say, so many moments where he came up and sort of decided games. He scored a lot of winning goals that season, was unbelievable, really. And the Villa one is particularly crucial, because I think back to that game, if Liverpool end up losing that game or just drawing, then it really would have given Manchester City some belief going into the game at Anfield, which was the following week. The fact that Liverpool score that late winner, that sends them 6 points clear, and then they had an opportunity then against Manchester City to go 9 points clear at Anfield. And I think, once they did that, I don't think Manchester City ever really believed that they could overturn it and they could ever recover against a Liverpool team that had been so relentless at the start of the season. So that just sort of adds to how important that goal was. And he did that so many times that season, so many crucial goals. In terms of maybe sometimes his contributions being underrated, but perhaps I think, Salah has long got all the plaudits, hasn't he, or a big chunk of the plaudits, and rightly so, by the way. An unbelievable footballer in his own right, incredible, and his goal-scoring numbers speak for themselves. But I think, in terms of iconic moments, Mane's certainly got enough of those that I think fans recognise. And I think the fact that he's not just played in one position as well sort of says a lot about him in terms of, as we spoke about earlier, playing on the right-hand side of the front three when he started. Then he got moved to the left when Salah arrives. And then obviously his final season, he ended up playing through the middle. So, maybe that ability to sort of play in multiple positions is sort of taking the shine off him at times, sometimes in terms of, how much people recognize his performances. But when I think fans will look back and recognize how much he put into that and, how much sometimes it went under the radar, but he leaves as a Liverpool legend. And I think even if Salah has sometimes taken the plaudits away from him a little bit, I think now that he's leaving, people will finally recognise what it was all about and just how big of a hand he's had in recent successes.
Yeah, definitely. Two more kind of real key moments I want to speak about is the first one, talking there about you mentioned the versatility and going for the last 6 months to play as a forward when I have to admit, start of this calendar year, I kind of thought if it got to this stage of the summer and Mane moved for the money he has done to Bayern Munich, that would have really been job well done. I actually kind of look at it and think maybe this could come back to be a bit of an error for Liverpool. We'll have to wait and see, given just how successfully he's transitioned to being a centre forward. When I think it's fair to say the 18 months prior, he looked as though his finishing touch was beginning to wane.
Yeah, very much so. A bit of a tactical masterstroke, really, for Jurgen Klopp to move him into that position, to see that would be the best way of using all his quality in this moment. As you said, it had shown signs of being a little bit on the slide prior to that, I think. Still putting in some great performances, but not maybe as consistently. And then he came back from AFCON and that move to centre forward really seemed to revitalise him. I think Bayern will maybe look at that run and think, okay, this can be our Lewandowski replacement. We're going to use him through the middle and that's it. He's an out-and-out centre forward for us now. Whereas Liverpool will maybe think, well, we didn't really want to do that on a long-term basis and he wasn't quite as much of a threat coming off the left or the right as he used to be. Therefore, this is a good time to sell him. It's going to be interesting to see who sort of wins out in those deals. You're always taking a risk, aren't you, I suppose, making that decision. And maybe Bayern will add the Champions League this season and say that they won out of that deal and Liverpool didn't. Or, maybe Mane will come up against Liverpool and maybe struggle a little bit in that central position. We really don't know yet, but that's the decision that Liverpool and Bayern have taken. And now we have to see how it sort of plays out.
Yeah, definitely. Pass through for Salah in the 4-0 home win over Manchester United was incredible, as too was his performance, his one-man performance, as it were, in the FA Cup semi-final against Man City, typified, of course, closing down to get that goal, nicking it off Zach Steffen's foot. But the final one, and you mentioned there, in the Champions League, he may face Liverpool for Bayern Munich. Well, of course, he's faced Bayern Munich for Liverpool, and in the Allianz, I have to say that for me, one of the crowning moments on the run to Madrid. His performance that night, of course, just absolutely phenomenal, and one of those that will go down in the ages for Liverpool away European performances.
Yeah, without a doubt. Just, to start with that goal, just incredible. Again, everything about Mane really summed up in a goal. It's a great pass, but I mean, goodness me, how much work does he have to do when that is coming over his shoulder to bring it down? And then he's got one of the world's best goalkeepers is immediately on him and two couple of defenders around him, and he makes them all look absolutely ridiculous. Just with the speed of thought, the touch. And then the composure and the finish is a joke as well. Just the little dink he puts on it, rather than, I think if it was me, I say if it was me, I wouldn't have been able to do anything like the moments before that. But, say somehow I found myself in that position, I'd have just thrashed it in, probably put it miles wide and over. I've no doubt about it. The presence of mind to do it, the composure, the quality, just really summed him up. And his performance overall that night was just absolutely brilliant as well. And I think, that whole Champions League run, really announced him. I think one of the things actually I wanted to mention was that slightly goes under the radar about him is that the Champions League semi-final against Barcelona, he was the only one of the front three who actually made that game. And although we always talk about Wijnaldum's goals and Origi's goals, I think one of Mane's most underrated performances for me is that night against Barcelona. He was absolutely everywhere. Such a major threat. Played a huge part in Liverpool penning Barcelona back at times, in his pressing, his quality. Just an incredible player, and I think that sort of went slightly under the radar about him. But yeah, just he's done it for so long on the biggest stage for Liverpool that there's so many of these iconic performances and moments to pick through.
Yeah, most definitely. So many moments and so many contributions that he has made during his 6 years at Liverpool. But that is the end, of course, of Sadio Mane's Liverpool career. He goes down a Liverpool legend and has already outlined his desire to return to Anfield. And I'm sure he'll, whenever the occasion comes and he returns to Anfield, whether still playing or not, there will be just pure adulation from the supporters towards a man who really has underlined what modern Liverpool have become under Jurgen Klopp. If you want to share your memories and favourite Mane moments, do so in the comments section. But from myself, Guy Clarke and David Lynch, thanks for joining us on this edition of The Agenda. It's bye for now.